We're going to begin our week with a discussion about visual communication. It's a form of communication that's closely related to and overlaps with other forms of communication, such as electronic and nonverbal communications. This week, we'll cover these three forms. Let's start with an overview of what visual communication is: the conveyance of ideas and information in forms that can be read or looked upon. There are many ways that visual communication can be conveyed, such as through fonts, signs, images, design, animation, and even, as Coach Mike demonstrates here, how we dress, and so many other ways as well. In the corporate world, we tend to look at visual communication as forms of visual aids that are available for our meetings and presentations. These five, multimedia, handouts, whiteboards, videos, and props, are among the most popular today. While we may have personal preferences as to what we like, our audiences have some preferences as well. We'll talk much more about effective presentations in next week's lesson. For now, I'd like you to focus in ways that we can illustrate our ideas. Your reading this week involves the use of graphics, starting on page 179 of the BCom textbook. Here, you'll find several ways to use visual communications. I'd like to spend a few minutes now talking about electronic communications. We'll start with email, one of the most prevalent and pervasive forms of communication in healthcare today. Email is often a most appropriate way to send short messages that deliver routine requests and responses, but be careful that it's not used for sensitive, confidential, or lengthy information. Remember that in many organizations, email like this can be requested under a Freedom of Information request. I once worked in an organization that was subject to one of these requests, and it was for all of the email that was sent from the organization's staff on a specific date. Not only did that mean that the day-to-day workplace communications were included, but also the email that was sent home to a spouse addressing dinner plans, and other email maybe to vent things like about what the staffer in the next cubicle was doing, email to friends about plans for the weekend, and so much more. Remember that your organization owns your email. It's not personal, and you just may find it someday on the front page of the local newspaper. All right, does anyone use instant or text messaging in their organizations now? This involves short chats with others, like email. Instant messaging creates a permanent record. Text messaging works over SMS, or the Short Message Service Gateway, and involves messages of 140 or fewer characters. Podcasts are digital media files that can be downloaded on portable media players and personal computers. They can be syndicated and subscribed to. From an organizational perspective, these can be particularly effective for distributing information to workforces that are geographically diverse. So for example, with SLC Care, it would be a wonderful way of being able to get information out in a warmer fashion than perhaps a written way to email across the various components of the healthcare sites. Video conferencing has also really grown in the last 10 years, particularly within healthcare, with the Ontario Telemedicine Network. For several years, we've been using this type of technology for things like patient visits, as well as educational opportunities. Video conferencing provides stimulated face-to-face meetings over distance. There are some technological issues yet. Participants may situate themselves in places where the camera doesn't focus in on them, or the camera may be zoomed out so you can't discern who's in the room. But this technology certainly does cut down on the number of hours that are traveled for meetings. And blogs. Blogs are like website journal entries. Twitter posts are considered microblogs. They may combine text, images, and links to other hypertext. From a business perspective, blogs can be powerful in linking staff and customers. Given that healthcare organizations are so committed to their email, this is likely a good time to provide our future healthcare leaders with some tips to use email better. The first is to use an informative subject line that summarizes the central idea of your email and includes any deadlines for response. Not only will this help speed up the receiver's understanding of your request, but it may be what determines if the message is read or not, and will also help the recipient find it for later reading. Be direct. Open your email with the main idea. Think of the news pyramid. Reveal that main idea immediately. Remember when we talked in media relations about starting with a lead, the first line of your story? I referred to this as the "Hey Martha," as you kind of wanted your reader to turn to the person next to them to share what's happening. "Hey Martha, you got to read this." Guess what? This works in business communication too. So start with that bit to incite your reader to read on. The body is where you put your supporting points. Make sure it stays on topic. And again, supporting points should be presented in terms of the level of their importance, with the most important ones going first. Limit the topic so that the receiver has only one thing to act upon. Provide skim value by using bullets or highlights if it needs to be a longer message in order to improve your readability. Why is this so important? Well, in January 2014, the U.S. Consumer Device Preference Report indicated that 65% of email is now opened on a mobile device. Another 16% is opened on a tablet. These numbers are only going to grow. People are reading email on the go. And make sure you close your email with action information, dates, and deadlines, a summary of your message, or closing thought. Those who only skim the information will look at the last few lines for pertinent actions that are required.